Let's get right to it, guys. Former Bachelor host Chris Harrison is breaking his silence almost 2 years after leaving the franchise. So on a new podcast, he talked about the fallout from an interview he did with former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay, where he defended a contestant's decision to attend a plantation-themed ball back in 2018. Let's have a listen.
I was sick to my stomach, and I lost 20 pounds. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. Well, the point I was trying to get across, I stand by. The way I did it, it was messy, it was disappointing, and it's just not me.
Chris also said his apology and departure from The Bachelor came at a time when America was still dealing with the pandemic, as well as the backlash from the murder of George Floyd. So I got to be perfectly honest with this. 2 years ago, I was scared to have this conversation, right? We were in the midst of everything he talked about, as well as cancel culture. And if you defended Chris Harrison in any way, you were part of the problem and maybe let go from your job. And I don't want to say there was any pressure here from any of the DBL itself or any of my bosses. I just felt the social pressure, right? So I'm glad 2 years later we're talking about it in some capacity.
Yeah, I think you were fair to have that nervousness. I do. Erica, you about to speak?
Yeah.
Oh no, I think there are layers to all of these things, and obviously we had the conversation about the layers to cancel culture or lack thereof at a certain point. What really didn't sit well with me about this Chris Harrison situation is I have a tremendous amount of respect for Rachel Lindsay. She's been on my podcast. I believe that she is everything that like our mothers and grandmothers were like excited for us to try to become. I'm very proud of her. She was in the crossfires of all of this and the backlash and vitriol and misogynoir and racism that she faced for simply doing her job, which wouldn't have been any different than any of us sitting here and asking someone a direct question. Chris was abrasive, he was dismissive, and in my opinion, completely disrespected her. So I understand that everything that he had come his way was a lot, but she had those things come her way as well, and that was completely unwarranted for her. So I understand it. I'm not like losing sleep at night about the Chris Harrison this or that. I haven't thought about it since, to be quite honest, on his side. But I do want to say that because I think it's important that we understand that while people can make mistakes, he did that. He doubled down. He's since come back and apologized. You know, all of these things have happened, but I don't want Rachel's story to be lost in that equation.
And I totally respect and appreciate what you just said, because I think Rachel being in the equation in a negative way, I should say, she has to be part of the equation, in a negative way is ridiculous. Because you're a fan of The Bachelor and the host left, now you're mad at Rachel Lindsay. She was doing her job, right? And the way Chris Harrison handled it, he was wrong. But you said you didn't lose any sleep. I did. Because Chris Harrison was an executive producer on that show. He's been there since the beginning, and he was a huge part of that show. So me, being on television, 1 of 5, 1 of 6, saying something, and Chris Harrison got let go and he was executive producer, that really made me walk that tightrope, walk on eggshells. And I think Chris, again, not defending Chris, he was wrong. I don't think he should have lost his job, but I think he was defending whoever the girl was, Rachel Kirkconnell. I think he was defending her because she was going to be the next Bachelorette.
Right.
So as the host,
she was about to win the Bachelor,
season, right? So,
which we did not know,
right? Because
when this was
filmed.
happening, but we did speculate,
right? So I think he was doing his executive producer job in a wrong way and his host job in a wrong way, but that's where he was going with that. So him being fired really was like shocking to me. Not saying he's wrong. I would have liked them come together and have a teaching moment, everything we learned from the past 2 years, because it has been a teaching moment. For me, I think for a lot of people, the way we treat people in the past, what we need to do now, more respect, all of that great stuff, right? But I don't know if he should have lost his job in the moment. That's all. That's what I was saying.
I feel really for Rachel, because in that moment, like Erica said, here in this very moment, if we were interviewing someone, it's live, it's in the moment, like she's on a huge platform, he's on a huge platform, and it's kind of like you know, the fans of The Bachelor, obviously Bachelor as well, were attacking Rachel. Rachel's just trying to do her job, doesn't know what to do. You know, in that moment, she's trying to defend, gosh, so many people, history, everything. And, you know, what can she do? It's awful. But I just think, how do I say this? Like, I just feel like sometimes it escalates so much. Like, and like, why do people come after her for that? It's crazy. And I understand what you're saying as well. Like, he in that moment wore his, I think it was the wrong hat, producer hat, and defending the next Bachelorette hat, rather than being a human being and being aware, socially aware, and like of the time, and like respecting Rachel and her as just a basic human being who's doing her job. Like, it's just, you know, and I just think now now he's got this podcast, I would love for them to like connect on that and have it out and talk. And I think it would be a very different conversation, and I think it would be well accepted by everybody, and I think it would be very much needed. But whether or not that will happen, I don't know.
I don't know if, and I'm not speaking for Rachel at all, because Lord, no, I'm not doing that, okay? If I were her, though, I could see that not being
something that she'd
the
want
move.
to do.
Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're all just kind of like speculating at this point, but she owes no one anything.
Yeah,
No.
you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you on that. Totally agree. All right, Steph, the wait is over. Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, hit shelves today. Prince Harry has been promoting the book in Britain and here in the U.S., where he talked about his past drug use and how he dealt with the death of his mother, Princess Diana. We already know that his strained relationship with his brother dates back to when they were just kids. He hasn't spoken to his father, King Charles, in a while, and during his 60 Minutes interview, he called his stepmother, Queen Consort Camilla, quote, dangerous. So, Harry, has he revealed too much? Al, I want to hear your take before we get to the professional.
Well, you know, Steph calls me the night before and is like, what's your take? So, you
guys are on the same page.
You know, Steph, I don't know. I don't know if it's just this week, but I think I'm done. I think I'm finally done. I am down with Harry and down with Meghan speaking their truth, getting their side of it out there. It's out there now. And now when you're taking shots with Stephen Colbert,
Tonight,
which he will be on the Late Show doing tequila shots.
I don't know if I want to see that, because now it seems like, as I would, now it seems like you're taking advantage, not begrudging. But now you're kind of getting into this weird thing where you're famous for this, where I looked at it before as somebody speaking on a dysfunctional family, which I felt resonated with so many people. The idea that elements can come into your family and totally take it apart, and it may never come back together again. I kind of like the real and the honest and the rawness and how much he loved Meghan and how much he rode for her. That was inspiring. And now when I see you on Stephen Colbert, I'm like, well, what has this all been about? So that's my whole thing. But just seeing their love on display and showing people that if you have to walk away from everything for the woman that you love or the person that you love, do that. That's what I'm going to take from all this. The things with Stephen Colbert, you do you, go be famous, because you are famous. You're world famous. So who am I to say?
Come on, Steph, bring it.
Oh, man. So they basically, everything Al said, I agree with, and I really respect, and I think you're right. I think the book has been a bit of a disappointment for me, because 2 years ago, or however long it was on the Oprah interview, there were some very big allegations and claims and things that I was hoping to be delved further into in this book. Where this book has gone is in a completely different direction. I don't need to know about your genitalia, Harry, nor do I need to know about Williams, and you go into a lot of detail. Not needed. Not needed to know about, you know, how many members of the Taliban you've killed. I think the British Army and many other armed forces around the world are really upset about it because of what that could concur for us in today's world.
Absolutely.
It's not great at all. I don't condone you talking about your sexual exploits with someone who killed themselves because of the media and, you know, information that shouldn't be put out there without their consent. I don't approve. You know, I don't like the bullying of saying about William how he's lost all resemblance of Diana and like he's balding and like little catty comments. I don't like when you go on Oprah and you sound really accountable for the fact that you've worn a Nazi costume in public to then say, you know what, I got told to do that. It wasn't. I don't like that. I was really, really hoping for him to use it as a really big educational tool of what I wanted him and Meghan to be in the first place. Like educational, talk about the racism, talk about what you've learned, talk about the different cultures, talk about how life in England is so different in America and the reasons why, and like what are the pros and cons of that. Talk about what people need to know about, if you want to talk about colonialism, if you want to talk about racism, if you want to talk about how the royal family have gained wealth in the past and how it could be a learning lesson moving forwards. But I feel as though it's just muddied it and it's made it like a glorified Kardashians. And at this point, when you're making these huge allegations, which on some parts are so fair and so well regarded and very important, and you've got such a big platform, you should be doing that with dignity and the same pride, not talking about things like dead girls having sex with, or like strange things about being circumcised and so on.
Have you read the book?
No, I've read all the highlights of it though, and I've watched multiple TV shows on it.
But to be very fair about it, I think that's kind of contributing to what people on the other side, like myself, feel are the issues. When you're taking pieces of something, and this isn't a short read type of book, and you're taking all of the elements in order to prove one side, then I can understand why you would feel that way. I'm going to hold off judgment until I read the book, because what I found, a lot of people who did not ever watch the Netflix documentary, and they spoke out a lot before all 6 episodes were released to the public, and a lot of them ended up changing their minds on it, because I think it's one thing to hear it from the horse's mouth or the source's mouth, and there's something different to read a lot of glorified headlines about all of the terrible things that are going to be discussed in this book. At the root and basis of all of that, that truly is the problem and the reason why they're speaking out so much to this day. Now, I understand what you're saying, Al, about the idea of it feeling oversaturated, but they made a concerted effort to do a purge of everything that's been spoken about them as a couple, which goes back until, 2018. In terms of Harry, it goes back all the years of his life, because he and William were the first 2 ever to grow up under this very invisible contract between the media and the royal family. So it might seem like it's a lot right now, but the truth is, if you had to go back 7 years or 40 years of your life, how long would it take you to get to the root and the truth of all the stories that were put out there?
Not long. I don't remember my late 20s.
Right. So, okay. But I mean, yes, Colbert might seem like a lot, but he also signed up to tell his truth in this way. So I'm expecting there to be a whole media cycle, and the reason why we're so saturated with it goes back to the very same thing that Tyler Perry was talking about. You are with the most affluent and successful people. These are people who are wildly popular. No one had seen that level of press coverage, paparazzi, dinghies going up and down the river, helicopters flying over their homes in California. No one had seen it. So of course we had never seen this type of press coverage. And I think it's important that we get it out of the system. If you don't like it, then we just don't talk about it, but they can continue to talk about it.
Look, I think you guys totally represent each side of this argument, or if there is an argument. So appreciate your opinions on both of this. We're going to continue the conversation on YouTube as always. We'll be right back.
Yes.